Hello and welcome to The Federal. Today we are talking to Mr. Ajai Sahni, Executive Director at the Institute of Conflict Management and South Asia Terrorism Portal. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Sahni. So my first question to you is, as India prepares for 2024 general elections, we are reminded of the Pulwama terror attack. Terrorism was at its 10-year low in Jammu and Kashmir in 2023, when both incidents of violence and terrorist attacks and the death of terrorists have come down. What are your thoughts?
Well, first, I'd like to generally correct you on the data.
Yes, sir.
The low in terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir was actually in 2012, where we recorded 181 fatalities. So we still haven't gone below that 121 level. We had 134 fatalities in 2023. But the situation has enormously improved. It had worsened substantially between 2013 and I think we had in 2018 or 2019, we had 452 fatalities. So there was some deterioration in the intervening period, and things have again begun to stabilize. And that is encouraging for the time being. We must also understand the manner in which terrorism has been brought down in the recent past. Overwhelmingly, this has been a security forces operation. In the past, as I said, we had a low of 121 fatalities in 2012. I would have regarded that as a perfect opportunity to have initiated a political outreach and tried to address the issue to secure a popular and more permanent political solution. We may be approaching the same situation now in terms of the security environment. But politically, I think we are very far from a solution now, much further than we were in 2012, because virtually the entire political process in Jammu and Kashmir has been dismantled. The existing political parties have been made dysfunctional, and no new political formation has emerged, despite efforts by the ruling party in Delhi to engineer some sort of a political shall we say, conglomeration over there, either through defectors or through some new formation. But all these efforts have failed. So while in terms of purely of security, the situation is enormously improved, I think in terms of the possibilities of political solutions, we are very, very far away from anything that could be a permanent resolution of the problem.
What are the urgent steps that India needs to take for the violence level to remain at the minimum, and also to ensure that peace continues?
You see, I don't see the containment of violence to be a very, very great challenge now. Many things have changed. Pakistan is not able to sustain the same levels of support. There is a lot of pressure on Pakistan. They have their own internal difficulties now. Many of the groups that were very loyal to them have now got very dubious loyalty. You must understand, for instance, both Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed, which are the most active groups, the two most active groups into India, have got very good links with the Taliban. The Taliban is supporting the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, which is operating against Pakistan. Membership of these groups is very fluid. People from Jaish cross over into TTP, people from Lashkar cross. So Pakistan's situation or capacity to retain a very high level of terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir is limited. The other thing is that over the ceasefire period, we are able to fence the borders. The operation of the security grids, information flows, particularly technical information flows, but also human resource flows, have improved. So while you cannot completely, in a situation where another country is actively supporting terrorism and infiltration into a theater in your country, you cannot completely eliminate the possibility of terrorism. So low-grade activity will persist. But on the security side, the challenge has been contained and will remain at roughly comparable levels. The main thing is to address the issues of getting the confidence of the people back. And that is where I feel that the gravest deficits continue.
So the demand for statehood has not been new for Jammu and Kashmir, but recently we witnessed that similar protest and a demand was made in Ladakh also for a separate state and for statehood. How big an issue is that? How emotive an issue it is?
The Ladakh issue particularly, or generally the statehood issue for
Statehood
both sides?
for both sides.
Statehood issue is critical. The statehood issue is very, very critical. And I think it is the government in Delhi recognizes that. Almost immediately after they dissolved the state and made this union territories, they started saying that restoration of statehood is on the cards at some stage. So I really, frankly, cannot understand why it was necessary to dissolve statehood at any stage. However, the separation of Ladakh and Jammu and Kashmir is something that the Ladakhis wanted for a long time. But clearly, that has not met with their aspirations. They don't want to be ruled by remote control from Delhi. Also, there is evidently tremendous suspicion of the intentions of the Delhi government, the government at Delhi, but also the corporates who are associated with this government, the corporatization of resources that seems to be seen as a threat over there. Less so in Jammu and Kashmir, because nobody is going to Jammu and Kashmir because these, shadow violence is still there. In Ladakh, there is no shadow. Ladakh has never had a terrorism problem. So they are very concerned that the hopes they had of greater autonomy, greater self-administration and all, they have not been realized by your union territory status. So that has become very acute demand in Ladakh. As far as Jammu and Kashmir is concerned, well, the removal of statehood was a enormous injury to the people of Jammu Kashmir. And this has been a standing demand right from the beginning. It is also an element within the whole process of restoring the political cycle, the electoral cycle. They are not interested in panchayat elections, which are supposed to be non-party elections where you are propping up, your favored candidates, things like that. Real democracy is the aspiration of everyone. Nobody wants to be ruled from a distant and very largely a center that does not understand the issues of local governance. You can have a good governor, you can have a bad governor, or whatever that may be the case, or lieutenant governor, whatever it is. But it doesn't meet with the aspirations. Politicians, we like to abuse politicians generally, but you must understand that local politicians have a role in problem solving. If you remove the layers between the bureaucracy and the single man ruler who is representing Delhi, you are actually taking away a great deal of grievance resolution mechanisms which are part of the systems. We talk about corruption, and corruption is a reality that is not in question, but corruption is also serves to address grievances. If I can't get my grievance resolved by any other way, I can pay off local politicians, the intermediaries, the senior level political people to at least look at my problems. Who do I go to now? The bureaucracy, which is one of the most intransigent elements as far as the public is concerned. And then there is no one above that.
So the last assembly election in Jammu Kashmir took place in 2014, almost a decade ago, and the state government under PDP and BJP collapsed in 2018. Since then, the Union Territory has been under President's rule for nearly 5 years. Why has the Election Commission or the Union government not been able to conduct elections?
They don't want to. The Election Commission has nothing to do with this. The decision is the government's decision. The Election Commission will announce and administer the elections. But the decision to hold the elections is the decision of the government. And the government at the center does not appear to feel. Look, right from the beginning, the manner in which they were propping up certain parties and knocking down certain parties, it was evident that the intention of the government at the center was to, in some way or the other, engineer a proxy to power. Get a party in power which I can control from Delhi. Now that experiment has failed. Having failed, they are not willing to relinquish the power that they are exercising over Jammu and Kashmir. They don't want a government that they don't know who's going to come to power if they have an actual, honest and open process of election. And if they have a government which is not friendly to the center, they would completely lose that kind of direct grip over the civil administration. Security will always be theirs, irrespective of the nature of the government that comes in. Since it is a terrorism affected state, central forces will play a central role, and a fairly close grip is also held over the state police by the central authorities. So that is not the issue. But as far as the civil administration is concerned, and the civil administration is a very, very critical tool in which you manipulate the political system and the electoral outcomes and the popular, shall we say, vote and support. Now, that is something it seems that they are not willing to relinquish. They still continue to believe that they are going to, at some stage, be able to either engineer a sympathetic or a proxy government in Jammu Kashmir, or keep on going as they are going right now.
So in the last decade, Jammu Kashmir Assembly has witnessed a kind of religious divide in which one party does well in Jammu region, and the other party does well in the Kashmir Valley. Although religious division may not be new to Jammu Kashmir, it was not so much visible in the earlier assemblies. How do you look at this, sir, this development in the last 10 years?
If you make religious identity politics the core of all national politics, which is what has been happening, and particularly in areas of conflict, you make religious identity the decisive issue, then obviously there will be polarization. There is an active process by extremists on both sides, unfortunately supported by the center, at least on one side, to create a polarizing political dynamic in Jammu and Kashmir in particular, but also right across the country. So to see a well-supported effort to polarize politics and then say why is politics becoming polarized? I think that is, it should be very obvious why politics is becoming polarized. It is becoming polarized because that is what you seek. That is your principal mobilizing instrument to secure and hold power.
So most of the regional parties of Jammu Kashmir, primarily National Conference and PDP, are demanding resumption of dialogue process with Pakistan. Do you think it should happen? Because the union government has taken a very strong stand as far as the dialogue issue with Pakistan is concerned.
Look, I don't really understand what this dialogue process is supposed to be. We are talking to Pakistan all the time.
True.
The question is political dialogue at the highest levels, where the prime ministers. Now, that requires a certain enormous amount of groundwork through covert diplomacy, through bureaucratic level and diplomatic level exchanges. And it is only when the groundwork for that is laid that you can expect any kind of productive political process, a negotiation at the level of minister, prime minister, things like that. Now, I don't think that situation currently prevails. The second thing is that we must understand what is the intent and objective of the adversary. Have they given up on terrorism? Have they given up on their original demands for what Kashmir's separation from India? I don't see that. So what is the use of, how will negotiations? I have always said that negotiations must have a clear objective in view. Merely talking is not going to solve problems. Merely talking, we are talking. After all, the ceasefire is holding between the two countries. We do not have the artillery exchanges we used to have on a daily basis. We are not on the brink of war. We are only having this low-grade, covert proxy war that is continuing. And I think that can be handled, contained, and neutralized on our own soil. And once that is done, then I think also these regional politicians who also rely substantially on polarization and who rely on religious identity politics for some of their support at least, they will also realize that they have to now, the whole Pakistan idea, as it is, the Pakistan idea is gone from Jammu Kashmir. So these parties will also understand that they cannot play this card for very much longer if over a sustained period of time, we are able to bring down or hold down terrorist activities in Jammu and Kashmir.
So my last question to you is, it's been 5 years since the abrogation of Article 370. Do you think a parliamentary delegation or some kind of a group of interlocutors should be sent to Jammu Kashmir and talk to people? Some kind of a dialogue process would start between center and the people of Jammu Kashmir.
Who are the people of Jammu and Kashmir? When you will not allow any political party to exist over there, who will you talk to? You will go into the streets. Who is your parliamentary committee going to talk to? First, you must restore the political processes in Jammu and Kashmir. See who represents the people. Have a free, fair election. Allow all the parties who wish to participate in that election to participate, and to participate without fear in the entire electoral process. Then you can start a dialogue. Right now, the question is, who represents Jammu and Kashmir? You have thrown everybody into jail. You do not allow PDP, NC, even Congress to have any word. You are trying to break these parties to set up new formations which have received no traction on the ground. Nobody has any faith in them. They have no credibility whatsoever. So before we can begin a political process, you must restore the local political processes. And then you can say, now the center, as I said, even when we had in 2012, we should have started a process to engage with the representatives in Jammu and Kashmir and actively seek a solution or a resolution. Some people, there will always be a small number of extremists who will say, no talks, no resolution, no nothing. And that will still happen whenever you restore the processes. But there is a very large constituency in Kashmir now who is exhausted with this relentless violence, this complete exclusion, this politics of polarization. And their political parties, the traditional political parties, are willing to speak to you and to articulate the positions of the local population. And that is what we should seek. But as I said, before you can get to that stage, you have to restore these political parties to political function and then talk to them.
It was a pleasure talking to you, Mr. Sahni. Thank you for your time.
Subscribe to the Federal's YouTube page for more news and updates.